And once again, welcome to Voyager, Please, a hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant. I'm Joseph.
I'm Peter.
And, well, Peter, I don't know what you want to say. We're 2 for 3? 1 for 3? How you feeling on this, man?
I feel new and improved. We took a trip up to Cleveland to go visit some family, and I had my wife trapped in the car and decided to finally make her listen to some of our earlier episodes just to get some mean-spirited feedback from her because I knew she wouldn't hold back. So,
I mean, if anything, Casey is willing to tell you exactly how she
feels.
So
we queue up episode 1, and as soon as I start talking, and she immediately just turns the radio off and says, "I can't listen to this. We're getting you a new microphone. No more recording in glorious Logitech 3D gaming headset. Now it's a real microphone for me, complete with pop filter." So feeling pretty good on that. But I did listen to a fair amount of that first episode, and I saw you put some very jazzy. I don't even know how to describe that music or where you found it. You know what immediately reminded me of was the next gen game that Spectrum Holobyte did for Super Nintendo.
Yeah, it's like an uprated 8-bit music. You've got to search sometimes for free podcast music, particularly something that has a little bit of a sci-fi feel to it. And I found something that is free with attribution, and so we are taking advantage of that. Unless we someday come across a fan willing to do us a favor, but yeah.
Well, I've got a request to that fan, or I might even do it myself if I come across an extra $15. I think the perfect intro music for us would be the Voyager theme song, since it's pretty easy sheet music from what it looks like. But if someone were to do it like with one of those elementary school flute recorders. And just a real bad record. So that might be my project for 2018.
That's some personal growth. That's expanding your musical abilities and really applying that towards an artistic endeavor that we're really engaged on here. I support that. I support that 100%. So let's get into it, my friend.
Oh, gosh.
So we are now on Season 1, Episode 3.
Time and again. We liked the temporal plot so much from Parallax, we've decided we're going to hit that twice in a row. I didn't even arrive to that disgusting conclusion until probably page 2 of my furious notes on this one. Whereas Episode 2 was really good, I thought, and was making me doubt the forecasts and the ill feelings that I was having in embarking on the trek through Voyager. Here comes Episode 3 to really just kick me in the dick and remind me, hey, this is not all going to be wine and tits.
It's a nice little reminder that this show is the unloved child of the Star Trek universe for a reason. And that reason is failure to follow through. But let's start with the promising part of the episode. That's the start. This prologue scene, it made me love Tom Paris so much. It made me spiritually identify with him. Because what is Tom Paris trying to do in this prologue? He's trying to get off his shift and get out of work so he can grab his boy and head on a date.
Yeah, so this bridge scene, he starts going on about the Delaney sisters and I believe stellar cartography, which I thought it was interesting that, you could be assigned to the same brand new vessel with your sister, but maybe the Delaney's got some crazy admirals in their pocket. And, that's one of the things I really think I'm going to regret about going through Voyagers. I'm not going to get my doctor recommended servings of crazy Starfleet admirals every other episode, but
just for people who, I guess, don't know us personally, because otherwise you wouldn't know what we mean by that. But throughout every other Star Trek property, all the admirals that you ever see, whether it's in TNG, whether it's in DS9, even when you're apparently getting into Discovery as well, they're all crazy in terms of like giving you contradictory orders to the main character or the captain.
Yeah, like half the admirals are just recruited like straight out of Mirror Universe. Like, go start some shit over here and burn these people's houses down while the babies are in bed. You're like, what? I got stupid tinsel on my uniform. I'm in charge. So anyway, some admiral I think was behind putting the Delaney sisters onto Voyager, probably after they tag teamed them, and much to Tom Paris's delight, they're showing some interest in him and potentially Harry Kim.
Well, what I love about the scene is that Tom is really on the case when it comes to, listen, we are 75 years away from the nearest group of humans. There is a limited amount of tail to go around on this ship, so it's act now. You know, it's a buyer's market, and we got to get in there. We gotta buy now. And he's really trying to impress this upon Harry Kim, and it reminds, if Voyager were U.S. GIs fighting on the Western Front in World War II, Tom Paris is the guy who's like, hey, buddy, let's go and bang all these French broads before we get our brains splattered across some fucking tree in the Ardennes. And Harry Kim's like, no, I got a sweetheart back at home.
She lives in Canada. You wouldn't know her.
It's, you know.
Yeah, Tom comes to grips very quickly with the fact that they are never going to see humanity again. And this scene was actually pretty good in putting it to terms like, you are never going to see your loved ones again, and you need to make a new life out here in the Delta Quadrant as you try to, keep some semblance of home.
Did you notice that Tom Paris said he had 5 girlfriends while he was in prison?
Well, in the future, they're very liberal, and a mop, wig, and some Kool-Aid rubbed on your lips like lipstick, hey, you are what you want to be.
I just assumed that he was referring to guards. Like, he just was able to charm all the lady guards. Tom's got that bad boy charm. I don't doubt it.
Was it a co-ed prison? I don't remember. I was so enraptured with Janeway's glow when she came to pitch her terrible idea of picking a convict up to fly her spaceship. Oh, she hadn't deployed that plan yet, to be her special advisor in a uniform that I don't look at the female population. So if Kim and Tom Paris was your favorite portion out of this front scene, I got to say my favorite scene or portion of it was, so they hit like space turbulence.
Right.
And did you notice like Janeway and Neelix just stumbling out with these little funny grins on their face out of her ready room?
Yes, I did. Like they were having some conversation we don't get to be a part of.
Conversation, is that what you want to call it? Because it looks like Janeway's in there, letting Neelix earn some quote unquote brownie points by the look on her face.
Hey, no, you're messing with my Tom Paris, Catherine Janeway headcanon. I'm not.
I think Neelix is moving in. Neelix is earning his keep. That's my hypothesis.
No, she's, I got only one resident in Cougar Town in my headcanon. Only one resident in Cougar Town.
Speaking of that Cougar Town, I also want to go and throw out there, Janeway's hair is huge in this scene. Her hair, I don't know if they're just trying out different styles or whatever, but her hair just blooms out like the saucer section of like a Galaxy class. It's very impressive for that scene. Yeah,
and it's also fake. Clearly fake. My wife called it out immediately, like, what is with these extensions they're putting in her hair? Like, what the hell? It was particularly noticeable later, but we'll get into that. But as you mentioned, there's some space turbulence. There's some kind of explosion that's happened that they've picked up on, and the Voyager steams off to investigate, like the intrepid explorers that they are. And they roll up to a planet that looks grim. It's gray. It does not look good from orbit.
Well, before they even have a chance to check that planet out, everything I said about Kes in episode 1, I take back.
You didn't like her having disturbance in the Force moments?
If that's what you want to call it, man. Like right off the bat, we're not even 40 seconds into the episode. and she has already stepped on my fun. Like, I feel like they're turning her already into the worst Troy moments possible. Waking up in space bed with silk space sheets with that gas, like, oh. Yes, okay, something bad happened. Clearly, you're going to be the new telepath in town, and you're going to be over emotional and cry this whole episode. I saw it like just plain as day on her face right off the bat.
I think she gets one good scene out of it later, and not too much later than this. My main problem with the episode is her too, particularly how the writers use her later. I'm with you. They decide that they're going to go beam down to this gray hulk of a planet after they ascertain that there was a civilization there, but there's nothing living on the surface anymore. So something has happened.
Can we have a security concern moment? There you are, out in the Delta Quadrant. You got to get home. You come across, let's call it Disaster Planet, where some bad shit has gone down and potentially there's a lot of death. And you're just going to beam down. Like, there's nothing to see here, guys. Keep going. Sure as fuck don't go to the surface where there might be, like, zombies or some infectious plague or God knows what that you can't fix and only stand to lose here. This is like a zero-sum gain opportunity for you.
Not to mention that they break Starfleet operations rule number 1 and the captain is in the away team. You know,
dude,
that thing that's always such a huge fucking deal in TNG.
You are jumping down to my list like something I got like super circled. But before we get there, because I wanna talk about that, but even up on the bridge, like do you notice like Tuvok's the one that's going like super heavy on like reporting sensor data and all that stuff instead of Kim over on ops?
Yeah, I mean, I know. I figure it's part of wanting to spread the dialogue around. Yeah, they do that on TNG as well. You'll see Worf report on sensor data instead of data sometimes, and that sort of thing.
But when they beam down to the surface of this misery planet, what I say? Disaster planet?
Yeah, disaster planet.
What?
A disaster planet that, by the way, uses all of the blue lights, spotlights that they used in Terminator 2, evidently.
When they were beaming down and they showed the planet's surface, did it remind you of anything?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm sure about to remind me.
For my money, that place was a dead ringer for a zombie apocalypse abandoned mire. Do you have mires in Cincy?
No. Well, actually, take that back. We do, but I think we've only got a couple. We're more of a Kroger town since they're based. You know, their headquarters is here.
We got a couple Myers. Myers is like a big. It's like a slightly classier version of Walmart, and they've got these big, bubbly, curved windows in the front. And I don't know if you can just do a Google search and try and see what one of these things look like, but it's if you took a picture of a Meijer and then you put like some Facebook zombie dead filter on it, that's what Hazard Planet looks like.
I appreciate that apparently it's perpetually a night in need of being illuminated by the T2 blue lights.
Yeah.
Even though it was just an explosion, not even an explosion, that's kind of special space eradication that wouldn't prevent sunlight from coming down, but all of the scenes on the planet.
Are dealing with a Romulan grade super weapon death planet here.
The Scooby Squad goes down to the planet. It's got the captain, it's got Torres and Tuvok and Paris.
Chief engineer, chief of security, and the helmsman. You've got like 3/4 of the bridge crew up there, right?
Right. Zero expendable crew. It's all senior officers.
It's ridiculous. And I've got that right there. Captain, security, helm engineer, no science. You're going down on an exploration mission. You have no science officer. And then in case there's any, doubt in your mind, like, well, it's a dead planet. What's the worst that can happen? I want to point out when they beam to the surface, Tuvok's got his phaser pulled out and ready to go. In Star Trek, they're very picky about when they transport in with phasers out. So him having that shit out tells you right now they're expecting something terrible to potentially be down there, and they're bringing the fucking captain. And this is episode 3, mind you. So if the Starfleet captain is on Hazard Planet surface, who's in charge of Voyager?
Golly gee willikers, it's the second in command, who in this case is a wanted
Maquis
terrorist. One of the things I liked about the episode, however, is how they play some of the tension, but still shouldn't have happened. They all beam down.
Wait. Before we don't move away from this, because I just had a thought cross my mind. You are Chakotay. You are the Maquis terrorist leader. Your boss, who is the bounty hunter sent out to capture you, decides she wants to beam down to Hazard Planet. Accompanying her is Tuvok, the double agent who sold you up shit's creek without a paddle and betrayed your trust. And also that white guy you hate, Tom Paris, who's like throwing all these Native American slurs at you and also stabs you in the back. The only saving grace, I think, to Chakotay not just like smiling to himself and steering and driving off was the fact that Torres went down there and even she like was pissing him off pretty heavy last episode. So Chakotay's a big pussy is what I'm saying for sticking around.
I mean, it would have been something if he had just waited until they all beamed down and then, like, opened a communication channel to Paris and it was, all right, now upchuck this.
Yeah.
Now I'm an eagle flying away with your fucking ship.
I got the Delaney sisters, bitch.
So they're down there and
yet another abandoned mall. Let's call it for what it is. It's an abandoned mall again.
This time, it's not an abandoned mall. They're actually shooting this at the same outdoor shoot area where they do. It's this water treatment facility in LA that also is doubled as Starfleet Academy, apparently.
Yeah, I figured that was a water treatment. But this little town square they beam into looks like another abandoned shopping mall to me. But
everything in LA looks like a fucking abandoned shopping mall. But I mean, that's the real talk. But they get down there. And we get a little bit of expository dialogue about what happened, and they get this reading for polaric energy. And Janeway and Tuvok lay down some knowledge saying, yeah, this stuff is so dangerous, the Romulans tried to fuck with it and accidentally exploded themselves, and now there's a test ban treaty. So this is some shit so dangerous, even the Romulans are like, nah.
When you got the treacherous Romulans backing off something, now you're cooking with butter. And
we get a little bit of a. At this point, I was okay with the episode because you're getting some sort of sense of what's going on. That they were sitting on this planet-wide atom bomb that could go off at any time because it's this unstable energy source. And they're looking kind of grim, and everyone's fucking dead, and they're treating it with this gravity. And I was like, all right, so far so good. I didn't care for the whole Kess disturbance in the Force moment because it was really cliche. But this is the part where they jump off and they make every wrong decision afterwards. Tom's looking around and he finds a clock.
That looks like a bomb, frankly.
An alien clock. And when he grabs it, all of a sudden his vision shifts and he's seeing the same place but obviously at a different time because everyone's alive and the sun is shining. And they do a little bit of Scooby Squad investigating after he explains what happens, and they say that, well, this giant fucking explosion that happened of this polaric energy has created fractures in the space-time continuum such that Tom sort of fell into one and therefore was time traveling to a prior moment. And Janeway tells everyone, all right, don't move. We got to get the fuck out of here.
It's floating shards of subspace. And Joe, can I make a confession?
Go ahead.
I've been watching Star Trek since, I don't know, 4th grade, maybe 3rd grade. If you sat me down with a pen and paper and said, describe what subspace is, I don't think I could tell you. I don't know. Honestly, I have no fucking clue. I'm a diehard Trekker. I have no fucking idea what subspace really is other than, what they send communications to and from Starfleet along. And nowhere in that internet version of subspace have I ever heard that you can have floating shards of yesterday that if they come into contact with your skin are going to teleport you back in time.
Here's my fucking problem. Okay, you knew there was this radiation of these polaric energy before you fucking beamed down. If you know that this shit is this dangerous, that an explosion like this could, break the space-time continuum and you can get sucked into a vortex of, getting explodified? Why the fuck are you down there? Why did you all just roll down there for no fucking reason?
It's what I was bitching about before, man. It's a ridiculous premise.
While this is happening, Kes has this scene
where God.
She goes into overdrive.
In my notes, I say Kes Troy overload.
The scene itself, if you take it independently, she really acts her ass off, really going whole hog at all this emotion and seeing this horrible shit, except it's really contrasted with the scene from before when it happened, where she's like, if something happened, I felt a disturbance, I have to see it. And now here we are later, and now you're like all broken up, like, I saw the whole time, it was so terrible. Like, which is it? Was it a disturbance in the Force like your Obi-Wan, or is it that you saw a billion people die in front of you and now you have PTSD? Pick one.
These are just the Troy feels she's getting here. They present this character. I thought she was pretty strong in the first episode. She almost comes off as like this righteous paladin who is willing to fight the system, do what's right, hold people morally accountable, and try and persuade them. And in this one, she just comes off like a complete sissy who is a victim of her own emotions. Again, I continue to feel like she's being shoehorned into this episode. And I want to go ahead and point out, too, like right off the bat, when she shows up on the bridge, like, oh, gosh, my feels, I detected something. Again, her and Neelix just seem to have this unlimited and unwarranted access to every sensitive part of the ship. Like, Kes just rolling onto the bridge, no big deal. Later on in the episode, her and Neelix just bust into fucking main engineering like, hey, dudes, what's up?
There seems to be a little OPSEC, I guess is what the phrase is. There's none of that happening internally. I mean, and these two are the least of their concern, in my opinion, because they have known terrorists all up in this. Not just the ones they've decided to empower, but, the jabronis, the Seskas, if you will, who are rolling around not just having unbridled access to the ship, but actually having to do things on it, having jobs that are probably critical. You don't see any precautions that have been taken, while at the very least you get used to trusting these people. No, none of that.
So Kes is over there crying about her feels. We get a pretty good scene in with the doctor where she's, they woke his ass up to come look at her, and he starts flipping out justifiably that he doesn't know why their files aren't in the ship's records. And then he seems to have some common sense concerns that there's Maquis terrorists that are part of the crew as well.
I loved his absolute annoyance that no one tells him shit. That nobody has bothered to inform him that there are two previously unencountered aliens on the ship. And on top of that, there's probably a couple dozen new dudes in the ship that, they could have brought space aids.
They did bring space aids, man. One of those crew members who was undocumented, B'Elanna Torres, straight up had space syphilis when they came up off of Ocampa Mall World.
You're right. The apparently cured a space syphilis from the Ocampa land that never gets mentioned ever again.
Let's go real deep in the nerd super Star Trek forest here and look at this. In that episode 1, they get beamed back up with space syphilis. In this scene, we find out that the doctor, the only doctor on the fucking ship, the hologram, has no idea that there's new crew members. That means he never, ever saw B'Elanna Torres. She went completely untreated, 100%. They just beamed her ass over, and that was it. Don't even talk to the fucking doctor. Just go ahead and be chief engineer now, and please don't rub your goopy syphilis on anybody.
It is striking how they just ignored that whole disease subplot from the pilot. I mean, they just ignored it, Edward. They're just like, fuck it. We're just not going to bother to solve this.
I'll tell you what I can't ignore, though. Robert Picardo, man, his cross-eyed. Like, they had to have fixed it later in the episode, but just every time I see him, man, like, I'm trying to pick which eye I want to follow.
Ben, you are better at detecting that. I really looked for it this time.
How do you not see it? Whatever. Man. I'm just a terrible person, and I'm a terrible person, I guess. But yeah, so there's Kess crying about it, and I like how he's just like, I felt in the place of the Doctor where he's like, yeah, look, you have unusual mental ability, which aka telepathy, not a big deal. Obviously, you're going to turn into some Super Saiyan telepath thing, and we're foreshadowing this like a fucking frying pan over the head. Let's just get it over, go home and drink some fluids and leave me the fuck alone.
I appreciated his growing attempts to have a personality of like give a little like quip as he gets turned off. You can tell he's starting to experiment with his new role as a semi-sentient sort of construct. I thought that was I was played, but anyway, we sort of breezed over that on the surface. One of these little subspace fractures passes over where Captain Janeway and Tom were standing, and while Tuvok and B'Elanna got lifted back up to the ship, suddenly they are on this planet, but obviously in the past because everyone's alive. And the first thing you notice when you are on this planet and you see the residents of this planet is that apparently the people of this planet all wear...
dress like assholes.
They all seem to wear like discounted Kwanzaa shirts from like from a rejected Family Dollar bargain bin that seem to tie up like a corset. They've got these weird tricolor Kwanzaa-esque color pattern is the best way I can describe it.
Let me tell you what I wrote. Let me tell you what I wrote down. I said that these are the most half-ass aliens ever. These, whatever, I don't know if they even said what race they are, but they are one-for-one regular humans. No ridges on the nose, no tips on the ear, no weird face paint. They are just regular human and what I called Nickelodeon clothing.
I mean, they're not even half-ass. They're quarter-ass. They're all just white humans. There's not a single drop of melanin anywhere, which is incredibly fortunate for those for Janeway and Paris. I didn't see any. They literally landed in apparently a planet full of pasty white folk that
with a lot of blondes
that wear a shit ton of crappy woolen like tricolor tie-on shirts. It's the fucking weirdest thing.
You're wrong. There are black people on the planet because they were participating in the riot that you see later on. So
that's right.
That's a very poor representation for diversity on this planet.
That's right. When they had they have the scene where there's criminal action happening, they had to make sure to bring them in. That's really spot on job by the Voyager production crew.
While we're dragging on costumes here real quick, something really struck me as I'm watching the Starfleet guys walking around. They all got their phasers, like, if you're right-handed, their phasers are hanging off their left hip. It's like a cross-draw style. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about how bad it is to have cross-draw. It really invites, strangers to pull your phaser off and start shooting around. I drew this association. Those cross-draw phasers, the camera angles, they kept going low. The handle of those Viper phasers, those Type 2s, it looks like dildos hanging off the front of them.
I did notice as well that they shot like their initial interactions with everybody on the planet very low, so you kind of had this prominent the prominent hip placement of the phaser. Just my eye was onto it as well.
It just shoves off like this big black and silver dildo. The tricorder pouch, I can't break the mental connection out. It looks like a fanny pack on the front of them. I'm wondering if they like keep like jelly beans in there when the tricorder's out. You just got this big box hanging off you.
I didn't get the vibrator vibe just because I'm so used to seeing the Type 2 phaser at this point. But I think it was more prominent because Kate Mulgrew is kind of smaller as a person, both height. She's just kind of, the props looked bigger on her and therefore seemed more prominent because she was front and center in the shot. That was my thought when I was seeing it. They do a little expert CYA once they realize what's happened, to explain, we're visitors from this place you just mentioned. That's us. Yeah, our clothes are weird. It's what's in fashion now. All right, let's get through this fucking conversation, figure out what the hell's going on. And
The hobo cop coming along. I thought the cop looked especially homeless because, like, all the police or guards or whatever they are, they have like this extra, I don't know, skiers wear them. They look like these big earmuffs that wrap around behind your head.
Every costume we saw in this episode,
0 out
every
of 10.
prop we've seen, fucking terrible.
The worst.
Tom manages to BS his way into an explanation of the timepiece, and he comes to the conclusion this planet's going to explode sometime tomorrow, based on the version of the clock I saw before we fell into whatever fucking tiny little space shart got us on the planet. So we best figure out what to do, otherwise.
Do you ever say where the universal translators are located?
No, I've never. I know they make a point of talking about installing them at one point in a future episode, but I don't know if that is universally where they're located.
Like they get an implant in their head or something?
Yeah, I don't want to spoil the episode where it happens, but they essentially encounter people that need universal translators, and you see them kind of be put in, but it's very vague what exactly happened with it.
Huh. So yeah, they talk to the hobo cop. Everybody shows off their terrible corsets. I really like your description of Kwanzaa shirt. I think I'm going to use that in light of Nickelodeon clothes. My wife was quick to point out just how it's like Renaissance festival potato sacks tied together. It's just fucking stupid. And it's about this time where they start, we go back up to Voyager and they're having a remaining bridge crew meeting, and they start laying out the table of how this could possibly happen and confirm that, yes, the captain and Paris have somehow stumbled back in time through a subspace shard. And at this point, I'm leaning back just like, what this is 2 consecutive time travel episodes. And it's basically the same predicament in both.
Ultimately, spoiler alert, the effect precedes the cause. That's the conundrum in both episodes. It's ridiculous, and I feel bad for
the viewers.
Kim and B'Elanna. Well, yeah, Kim and B'Elanna get relegated to exposition theater, the driest fucking stupid dialogue for this entire episode. All they get is technobabble. Every scene they're in, all they're delivering is technobabble, and unlike in the prior episode where the technobabble served to fill out our understanding of who the characters were, particularly B'Elanna and Captain Janeway, in this episode, it's just fucking filler. It's just pointless time wasting to explain what's happening for the sake of explaining.
Were you here a week ago? Do you remember that contrived-ass plot that was still pretty good because we had some neat stuff going on? Well, here's another, just like you said, effect preceding cause debacle, only this time with terrible costumes and prime public utilities scenery. They lay out what the solution to the problem is, and yet again it's to widen a fracture to drag the crew to safety.
I almost don't care. Like, blah, blah. I mean, there's so much technobabble in this episode. Every fucking scene that we have in the quote-unquote future from this point forward is basically just endless bullshit that they invented to have these people saying things and doing things that seem science fiction-y. Yeah. It doesn't do anything except serve to solve the plot issue. It doesn't tell you anything about the characters. It doesn't do anything to further like any kind of interesting idea. It's just the thing happened. Here is us trying to fix the thing. There's no passion in it. It's just resuscitation of lines. The only bit, it's garbage. And the only thing I want to mention about it, you get some tension between Tuvok and Chakotay that is actually pretty good. And it's the only non-technobabble shit the rest of the crew gets to do for the whole rest of the episode, where Tuvok is pushing back against Chakotay because he's actually kind of doing this by intuition. Chakotay's kind of bringing in Kes when she starts inserting herself in the search.
Kes just walking into the senior staff meetings, bridge meetings, the fucking engineering bay, just some random space child they picked up who's got like half an iota of telepathy, like, Chakotay really is just grabbing at straws. And Tuvok's like, look, these people are gone. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Or at the very least is advocating for we have to approach this from a logical problem-solving, evidence-based position. Whereas Chakotay's like, feels. Yeah. Let's go with that. I appreciated they tried to take a moment to contrast that, but unfortunately, it's in service to a bunch of bullshit filler that is boring and sucks. The rest of the episode that has at least something going on in it is Janeway and Paris dealing with being in the past. They've changed into some local Kwanzaa gear. Janeway's put her hair extensions down, and she's starting to explain to Tom, like, no, we can't tell them that their shit's gonna blow up. Because Tom's like, hey, well, all right, let's fucking tell them. Let's get on the fucking 5 o'clock news. Y'all's planet's gonna explode. All of you are gonna die. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not do whatever the fuck you're gonna do tomorrow, because you're gonna die. And Janeway's like, no, that would break the Prime Directive. We have to let this happen.
Could not stand that scene. That was such a fucking pile of shit to try and sit there and jam on the audience's ears as she really tries to preach from a position of authority that Prime Directive is not only applicable here, but that she is going to follow it. After that bullshit she pulled on Caretaker Space Station, like, she has zero Prime Directive credibility left. The whole we can't interfere and life has to play out on its own, when she inserted herself like 12 feet up the Okampas and the Kmart Klingons situation, and then she's going to turn around now and start trying to preach. Fucking Paris should have just knocked her the fuck out.
I was about to say the exact same thing. Janeway's speech had been perfect if it had been buttressed by Paris saying, then why the fuck are we here in the first place? Because we should have just gone home and let this whole sector fight it out with the Caretaker's array. But you obviously don't really believe in this whole Prime Directive shit. So why don't we break that rule again and make sure this planet doesn't die? Because you were all keen to break it to save the fucking Okampa. Why aren't you keen to save the Kwanzaa people? What the fuck is the difference?
A handful of space fruit flies who can't exist without, someone feeding them energy and wiping their own asses, but an entire planet of people who seem happy and peaceful, minus these hobo security guards with their multicolor honeycomb badges and space nightsticks. And you're fine to let them die, and us along with them. Fuck you.
But instead, of course, what happens is we get another fucking... I mean, there's another 35 minutes of this episode from this point that is just the most inane, predictable crap. They try and fit in. They get caught up in something. The thing they get caught up in, guess what? This is the thing that's going to explodify the planet. Janeway comes to the conclusion that their presence is the time paradox. Or rather, the effect preceded the cause. Blah, blah, blah.
You're skipping over a lot of stuff here. Mainly that there's a child on the surface of this planet who is a total bitch. I hate child actors, and this kid just comes out of the gate wanting to be strangled. And I think if there's anybody I've ever seen that needs to be blown up by a Romulan forbidden power source explosion thing, it's this fucking kid.
I do like that they try to give him some personality of, like, his dad is a investigative reporter. Yeah. And that's the reason why he's hot on the trail. He's gonna get the scoop. Yeah. But it's just done he's just a terrible child actor. And
so he's trying to out him, and somewhere along the way, they go to investigate the source of what's going to cause this problem, and we get treated to what I can call the weakest fucking ride I've ever seen in any sort of motion picture or television media.
I mean, it's just rabble, rabble, rabble. Grr, we're angry.
I would like to know how they describe to these television extras who are dressed up like human candy corns. That was the other description my wife came up with for these costumes. She's like, they look like candy corns, and I was like, that's amazingly astute. That's a lot of yellow and orange in this color palette. But when they come up on the riot, they're already in the middle of like the bad looking security guys in corsets punching back the candy corn corset people. And it's just the stiffest blocking. And then the one guy pulls out what looks like a paintball gun and starts shooting in the air to try and disperse the crowd. Janeway and Paris just try and like beeline it right at the guard who's shooting the gun. And I'm like, what the fuck are they doing? Like, you see this is a bad scene. What do you think's going to happen when this guy starts shooting this gun off? And I really enjoyed how herky jerky Janeway getting beat upside the head with that future club, and then of course Paris, avenging his captain's well-deserved ass beating with some Kirk grade double axe handling to the stomach and face.
I mean, it's always good to see that classic Trek fighting in Paris breaking out, as you noted, the double fisted
double axe handle
slams. Always a delight.
He gets fucking knocked straight upside her head, and it was pretty glorious. And then somehow they just turn around and end up in another terrorist den.
They do, and they get this dialogue where they're first trying to sell their bullshit story, explain that they're not a threat, they're not involved, but obviously because they have no fucking idea where they are, who they're dealing with, it falls apart very easily, with the linchpin coming, of course, when the kid shows up.
First of all, I want to go and give mad props to Tom Paris, the helmsman who had been voluntold that he was going to get into first aid training school under the doctor's tutelage, and it was him right there, episode 3, breaking out some first aid on Janeway's fresh head wounds. And then, so these terrorists, they start grilling them. The lead terrorist, his blonde wig, I haven't seen anything that bad since probably Batman Returns 2 when they got Max Schreck. Oh gosh, what was it? Christopher Walken.
Yes. Oh god.
This guy's got like Christopher Walken hair, and they start trying to lay on their story about being from Kalto. And I remember it's Kalto because wasn't Kalto a big deal in Knights of the Old Republic?
Kalto, I believe, in Knights of the Old Republic is the healing gel.
Bacta. It's like the precursor to Bacta.
That is correct.
So they keep talking about that, and I keep thinking of whatever that was. That Malachor 4 that blows up. Whatever.
Yes, it is. That's the planet that's all fucking broken up at the end of Knights of the Old Republic 2.
Yeah, that's like Culto Centro. So that's where I'm thinking they've got they're getting all this from. So they try and like lay this oh, hey, here's this pretty well developed lie we've been running at this point. And they're like, no, you're lying because we've got Polaric screeners. Yeah, that's right, stupid, weird government spies. We've got radiation sensors that, unless you were in the power plant, you would have had to have been from a massive polaric disaster.
And that's when Janeway tries to tell them, okay, you got us. We're space travelers from the future. Like that's their next best option in terms of what to do.
Paris is looking at her like, or what? Like, didn't you just give me some weak-ass speech about how much you care about the Prime Directive and all this other shit, and now you're just completely playing that fucking card out of desperation here?
Like I said before, I've got no passion for any of this middle part of the episode because it's just the most predictable fucking bullshit. Because we just watched this episode! We just watched it! It's the same shit as before. What is about to happen is what causes what has already happened. And so, of course, Janeway has figured out that their presence has moved up the terrorist timetable to do whatever the fuck they're going to do. So guess what? They're going to do it at the exact time that they know that the planet explodes.
Yeah. I've got, the only real things I have of note from this whole segment of the episode was, one, nice purses, you bitches. In addition to dressing in corsets looking like candy corns, everybody on this planet also has a purse. That stood out to me. And then also, back up on the ship, Kess weaseling her way in, and Chakotay just more and more humoring her crazy intuition.
Yeah, he is super into whatever she's bringing to the table. Like, he's like, yeah, whatever, technobabble guys, but let me in on this weirdo lady in the bad page boy haircut wig. Saying that she has, special mind feelings. This seems like the way to go in the 26th century or 24th century.
Her wig continues to look like shit. I will say the costume that they had her in actually looked really cool.
That blue dress was neat, yeah.
Like that's the first time I thought they've really like brought out some like future clothes that look cool. But yeah, Chakotay is just totally fucking drinking deep off the Kes Kool-Aid on this. I think if Tuvok really wanted to try and get any of his input heard, he'd have to like bust out a Ouija board and be like, Chakotay, look, man, this my dead grandmother, she's saying she's saying we need to stay the fuck off this planet.
He keeps pushing back in every scene that he has the opportunity to, and I kind of appreciate, like, you start to see how Tuvok operates and how the Vulcan mindset applies to security, but it just serves as basically to belittle him because he's wrong. And the audience knows he's wrong because the feels lady is who's right, and so it just makes Tuvok seem like a stupid chump, which I'm not sure was the intended effect.
It's like Kes is just she read the script and she's metagaming, and Tuvok's just trying to play, the game the way it's supposed to be and not cheat, and nobody wants to listen.
I did like the conversation that Paris had with the kid when he's kind of trying to process the idea that this kid's gonna just be dead, saying sorry to him.
Yeah,
in an episode that otherwise is really defined by its flaws, and blandness. Everything with Tom Paris in this episode was what
lots of personality.
Yeah, you notice that everyone calls him Tom. Well, not everyone. Most of the other characters call him Tom, particularly Janeway and B'Elanna. They don't call him Lieutenant Paris. Even before they wind up in the past, it's Tom. He's got a real casual attitude. He's obviously got a very infectious personality. He's the good times guy. He's got his heart on his sleeve. His first impulse when they're in past is, all right, let's save all these people's lives. Let's fucking tell them that's what matters. Feels for the fact this kid's gonna die and he doesn't even know it. And I love it. I like that they're giving him some really unique personality, very different than the kind of Starfleet characters we've seen in the past.
Yeah, so the terrorists, they got everybody jammed up in this room. Janeway starts laying out that, they're from space in the future and there's going to be a problem. These shit terrorists aren't buying it. The terrorist leader, he seems like a pretty chaotic, good type guy, but like his second in command or whatever you want to call that other guy, just an annoying prick that's like just trying to catch people in these little gotcha bitch moments nonstop. But the room that they're talking in, Starfleet guys end up beaming down into that, a day later where it's bombed out Deathville. And what I thought was pretty cool is they actually end up locating the comm badges from Janeway and Paris, which are mutilated from the explosion that took place on the surface. And I thought you kind of got some pretty cool Starfleet technology background there where Kim states that, these two badges that look melted, when a comm badge is heavily destroyed, it puts off emergency distress beacons so emergency rescue crews can find bodies.
That makes perfect sense. I do like that Tuvok says this doesn't mean they're actually dead. It just means their comm badge is destroyed. So your supposition and assumption is not helpful. It's probably the only helpful moment he has, but we see them try to open up this little time-space sphincter, with this little technobabble device.
I thought the prop looked pretty cool on that.
They narrowly missed finding him before the commercial break, the clear commercial break, that goes to Act 3. Yeah. And Janeway lays out to Paris while they start the next act and they're walking towards the power plant that their presence is what's caused the planet to explode, because otherwise this wouldn't be happening if they weren't there.
For the second time, scientist Janeway has to explain to old stupid Tom that, the effect preceded the, causation. Again, just a complete throwback to the last episode. Before they moved out of that terrorist headquarters scene, though, I did like when they put her phaser up on the table and they're like, oh, this is your surveying tool because you're going to go buy some land. Show me how to work it. And Janeway gets like that smug look on her face. And before she can grab it, the guy's like, oh, unless this is a weapon, then I don't want you. And like the look of sheer horror and terror on her face, I'm like, Janeway's got zero poker face.
She does. She gave the game away. She went right for the gat and then gave it away.
Just a look of horror. She's like, "Oh my god, you saw through my lie." Oh.
Yeah, maybe good at astrometrics or whatever, but definitely do not take her to your Texas Hold'em game.
But yeah, that first attempt that they made to rescue him, I felt like there was a lot of telegraphing and just real clear cookie cutter plot progression. Like you knew that first rescue attempt was just going to fail, and it was going to be some come down to the skin of their teeth moment at the end of the episode.
And sure enough, that's where we're headed. They go to the power plant. There's a little shootout in front of the power plant when Janeway reveals she's a hostage, and Paris takes a space bullet to the gut. You know, he does the same level of pain acting that Garrett Wang gave us last episode. You know, just grimacing.
Good callback.
You know,
Good
holding his
callback.
stomach like So even Robert Duncan McNeil can't pull together a good pain sequence. He's oh, I'm in so much pain. Captain, go without me. I'm gonna hang out with this kid I just met. Good luck.
Don't forget me. Don't forget old Tom.
And meanwhile, you've got the Scooby Squad of the endless technobabble exposition showing up at the planet in the future, and everything is starting to come to a head.
About the time he's getting shot, it's because the terrorists had just approached the front gate of this power plant where there was just a fucking riot there. This is about the time that, like, just a lot of intersection of bads going on in the episode. Like, you've got these terrible candy corn outfits, these Kwanzaa shirts. You've got, you know, the Starfleet outfits there. Some of the guns are, you know, these futuristic looking space guns, and they're using like some pistol, I'm pretty sure, that I saw in GoldenEye on 64.
Oh yeah, the silver, the DD4 Dostevi or whatever. Oh yeah,
that's what it looks like. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, the scenes they're shooting at are backlot California, made up to look like some sort of security checkpoint. It just looks like a bunch of leftover garbage all jammed into one episode. Like, as soon as they actually breach the facility, now all of a sudden they're what appears to be a Cardassian hallway, where they start trying to do some sort of espionage on this, what was this shit called? Oh, Polaris Power Distribution Center.
Again, they're shooting this outside this water treatment plant that they use for exterior shots a lot, and it doesn't surprise me that it looks reused, and that's not my problem with it. Everything up to this point has been so fucking lazy for this planet and this alien species that I'm numb to it. I mean, we're about at the end of the episode, so it's been 40 minutes of phoning it in to the maximum degree in terms of the aesthetics. So it's like, yeah, of course this looks like something I've seen before. Because everything else in this episode either looks like something I've seen before or looks like it was slapped together at the last second, like some sort of... This looks like the, oh God, my shit is due, fourth period. I've got 2 hours. Fuck.
And we spent our whole budget on the warp ripple effect for these subspace rescue beacons.
Yeah, our time-space sphincters really ate up our effects budget, apparently.
Let me also jump back, too. So the Starfleet crew, they're walking around on the surface, a thing with no fucks to give about these subspace shards floating around the planet's surface, because Torres, in 15 minutes, was able to whip up these arm beds that are essentially, shark repellent from Batman.
I mean, why?
That just...
Again, why the fuck didn't anyone think of this shit before you all decided just to roll down there? Like, we detected all these polaric ions that suggest that this polaric energy might be the cause of this obviously massive explosion of a that we detected in this dead civilization we just found. Let's just go down there and be subject to terrible consequences of that before apparently taking some very easy to provide precautions. What a great fucking idea.
They get in this hallway. The terrorists start doing their thing. Janeway hot on their heels with, again, what looks to me like a Veron T disruptor plot from an old TNG episode. She's got a space gun.
I was going to say it looked like a fucking submachine gun from the Rocketeer, but go ahead.
She sneaks up on them, and they start having their back and forth about, like... hey, just everybody stand where you are. Don't do anything. You guys are responsible for the death of the planet. And if we can just make it past this time, everything will be fine. Them laughing at her holding them at gunpoint. if you shoot us with that weapon this close to the proximity of this node, it's going to blow the whole planet up. So she's caught in this, yet again, this temporal dilemma of, is it going to be actions or inactions on my behalf that cause the downfall of wherever we're at?
Okay. I really want to bring us home on the rest of this plot because it fills me with such anger that I need to express this, Peter. I need you to be part of this with me. Can you do this? Can you be part of this experience?
I'm stuck in here, man. This is the fucking temporal loop that I'm caught in as well.
Okay. I thought for sure that the way this episode was going to end was going to be because we've gotten these teases that Kes could sort of feel Janeway across the temporal divide.
Yes.
She was going to be the linchpin to say, push her to do a thing. Like, that Kes was going to end up being the critical part of them being able to solve the problem in the end because they had spent so much time hyping up this ability of hers, making her critical to finding out what's going on. I thought for sure, it's like, oh, Kes is the thing that doesn't conform to
sleeper
science.
Who was awoken.
Yeah, she doesn't conform to science. She doesn't conform to temporal mechanics. She seems to transcend the barrier, so she can be the clear out to solving a time paradox.
Another time paradox.
How do they solve it? They solve it by Janeway seeing what's about to happen, that the rescue was going to be what causes the explosion. Rolls up to the dude, says Mama needs her Glock, and just shoots the hole and solves the problem. She just shoots it. She just shoots it for like 30 seconds, and then that's it. It's over. Problem is fucking solved.
That was 30 seconds of my eyes glazed over thinking, like, what if that phaser just ripped through fucking time and started, like, blasting Chakotay? Or the people standing on the other side and, like, really caused some shit to go down with this lazy-ass plot fix. Really, I'm sitting there the whole time. I'm like, wait a minute. So they're in this, like, very volatile superpower plant where there's already been some sort of big industrial disaster. They just murdered guards on a rampage to force entry into this building. They've been dicking around in this little hallway for like 10 minutes. When is the rest of the security force going to show up and just gun everybody the fuck down, and they're going to be what causes this whole thing to fall apart? They're all stunned like deer in headlights as how bad and boring this episode managed to be, hot on the heels of a really great episode. So they're just, I think, content to sit back and let Janeway phone it in with a phaser blast saving the day.
Oh, they were all busy trying to cinch up those Kwanzaa corsets, man. I mean, that takes time to get those things on.
Ultimately, at the end of this episode, whereas the last temporal episode, they got away with, some stories to tell, all the character development that, you kind of see some of these guys, I don't know, there's not really any character development. You just see
Just Tom Paris. He's the only one.
He doesn't really develop. He's just, showing you, hey, I'm not such a fucking piece of shit. But so she shoots a phaser into this thing. It fucks up the rescue attempt. The subspace ripple rape freedom hole doesn't work. And
okay, sure.
I mean, that's basically, again, just like the last episode before it, parallax or whatever. It's okay. You got to force an entry through a hole and whatever. Anyway, so she shoots it. She saves the day, and ultimately the whole episode just accumulates in a and it was all a dream, which is the worst, I think, episode resolution for any type of TV show, where ultimately nothing you did the entire episode matters at all. You're right back where you started, and it's just been a waste of everybody's fucking time.
And here is where Voyager consistently will fail us. They love ship in a bottle episodes. They thrive on ship in a bottle episodes. And this is the fucking patient zero of the concept. It's the perfect example. Literally nothing in the episode happened. Because in the end, Janeway shot it with her space Glock. That's how they solved it. That's what happened. There's no explanation for why there was a time paradox Like, there was no choice that anyone made differently as a consequence of anyone's input that we can see. It's just Janeway just grabbed her fucking Service 9 and shot the problem until it died. And then that was it.
Well, some very fast thinking on her head to really, think about all the work that Doc Brown had to put in on that whiteboard in his garage where he's mapping out the space-time continuum, and she's just literally shooting from the hip like, oh, this is how this whole convoluted mess works, and this is where I need to take action to prevent all this. And nobody is any better for any of it except for the worst version of Troy, Kess, who has mystically, as you said before, she has proven that she exists outside of a normal space-time continuum, not only in her ability to sense people in an alternate past and all this other crap, but she, again, strolls right up on the bridge with no security credentials and nobody gives a fuck and starts making crazy demands like, oh, hey, show me this Class M planet and can you put it on the screen and all this other shit, like telling the captain what to do. Janeway obliging her, and she's like, oh, she like throws this knowing look at the planet like, oh good, all those people are just fine and dandy. Like, some shit was up. That the crew just went through some sort of traumatic thing. And in my mind, she's proving that she should not be anywhere near the trust level she has on the ship because she withholds all that information.
Yep. And that's the end. Thank fucking God.
Yeah, this was a terrible episode.
It started I was okay for the first 10 minutes. It was a little sloppy, but I liked that they really tried to frame like this disaster in a way like, oh, this is some serious shit. They were fucking around some things they shouldn't have fucked around with. Tom trying to get off his shift and go on his hot double date. There was some stuff going on that I was like, okay, all right. And then it just absolutely shits itself. It's just god awful from basically the end of the first act on the way to the end.
It was a fun episode to sit and watch from a hater standpoint where I was like, man, there's so much bad going on here that I'm going to really have a lot of things to talk about on the podcast, specifically these candy corn outfits. But I think a lot of it was just so...
They were so ill-fitting, too. You could see it on Kate Mulgrew. You could see her body shape wear that she was wearing. You could see the edges of it. I don't know if you noticed. They were ill-fitting Kwanzaa corsets from the dollar store.
Yeah. But a lot of the shortcomings that I had that I thought were fun were just purely visual in nature, and I don't know if that really came across as good laughs here, but just bad writing and again, you've got a very polished product. This isn't the next gen season 1 moops moments where it's like, yeah, we didn't know better. Like you had next gen, you had DS9, you know how to plan a season out, and you're going to go back to back, effect preceding cause, temporal episodes. Like, what the fuck, man?
I know. Who the fuck plotted that out in terms of the production? Like, did no one notice that they had 2 scripts that were almost exactly the same in terms of its overriding problem in a row? I mean, even if they ended up having to use this damn thing, why the hell didn't they have this happen later on in the season? I mean, it's a ship in a bottle episode. You can literally put it anywhere. But whatever. Thankfully, it's over. We survived. Perhaps not with our sanity fully intact, but I am happy to tell you the next episode is much better.
Tell me about the next episode, Joe.
It's called Phage.
I saw the little icon on Netflix. This is the people who's they're like super roddy, like those insurrection guys.
Oh, I mean, these guys put the insurrection dudes to shame. They, in my opinion, the Vidians, who are the alien race that we meet in the next episode, are the coolest Delta Quadrant alien species from my memory. They're definitely the best.
They're bad guys, right?
Oh yeah, mostly. They are the most creepy antagonists. Definitely where they spread their wings a little bit and do something different, and I like it. And the episode itself has got some fucking dark ass shit in it, and I'm looking forward to it. Like, it's gonna be a nice Like, from this cookie cutter 90s TV, literal rehash from the week before, low production grade bullshit we just watched, to something that, at least in my memory and hopefully in practice, stood out.
Well, I'm hyped for that, and I'm hyped for whoever is going to step forward and give us our new show opening with Voyager as performed on a recorder.
I pray and hope to God that we can make that happen. This is part of your growth for 2018, Peter.
Yeah.
Is practicing the recorder.
For episode names on this one, I think we should call it The Candy Corn Tragedy.
That seems like a winner to me.
Let me go ahead and close this out here with another word of wisdom from the rules of acquisition as they relate to time and again. And whereas the crew of Voyager was stupid enough to go to the surface and get knocked back in time to the Candy Corn Tragedy, the rule of acquisition, 285 states, no good deed ever goes unpunished.
It wasn't even a very good deed. Everyone was already fucking dead.
That is a terrible rule of acquisition, because fucking Janeway didn't try to do anything good until she had a gun to her head. I already used it. It's done. 239 off the table.
Hey, like the rest of this episode, it's a mistake that we'll never have back. I'm Joseph.
I'm Peter.
And this has been Voyager, please, on a hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant.
Adios.
God damn. Holy shit. What fucking garbage.